Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show, brought to you by Segmentify, the fast, lean learning machine, the fastest learning, most revenue-generating personalization platform for e-commerce.
Well, hello there, guys. Welcome to the eCommerce Growth Show. This is the show that's all about helping e-commerce retailers grow their revenue, either directly via tech agency or other solutions, or indirectly actually through personal development. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Simon Homent, who is the e-commerce director at Rakuten. And he is going to share with us some of the insight that he got into the key ingredients of e-commerce growth. So pretty on point, I think. He is a direct-to-consumer expert who has successfully grown e-commerce companies in the UK, Europe, and Australia over the past 20 years. So I'm really excited to talk to him. Hey, Simon.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Just to sort of open up, you mentioned you had a pretty varied, colourful career history. I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I joined Play.com back in 2001, which seems like a very long time ago now, but really in the very infancy of e-commerce as a shopping channel. So I met with the founders of the company, and they talked a little bit about what they were looking for. My background was a buyer, and they wanted somebody to come in and manage supplier relationships, manage the purchasing cycles, but quite an analytical, commercial a role to go with all of the other guys they already had there doing tech and operations. And actually, I was employee number 10, so very, very, very early days of the company. And then the idea that the founders had, the very entrepreneurial guys, they'd set up some other companies previously, and their idea was that they saw the opportunity to transition mail order into e-commerce, and they were looking at packaged entertainment goods that would fit in a jiffy bag and go through your letterbox, basically. So that was the kind of core mission of the company, and e-commerce being the vehicle to deliver that, rather than mail order, which you'd had in the 1990s. So from that acorn of an idea, they put a team together, which myself, and then as time went on, more specialists in terms of digital marketing and supply chain and technology, and built a business which phenomenal. In a few years after that, was doing hundreds of millions of pounds a year, and disrupted the market completely, upset a lot of competitors. But kind of set a benchmark for.
Was it a bit like Love Film, that kind of platform?
Well, it was a little bit. Love Film was a movie rental service that would come through the post, and then you would post it back again.
Yeah, I remember that.
Play was very much you buy it and you own it, so it's yours. It's yours to keep.
Got it. So moving away from blockbuster type model. Yeah,
exactly. It's all focused around entertainment type products that when you received them through your letterbox, you'd be really happy that it turned up. It wasn't boring, functional old stuff. It was movies and video games and CDs and those kind of things. So anyway, I was there. All in all, I was there for about 11 years. Through enormous growth through that business, which we'll come on to that in a bit, I guess. But then after about 11 years, I was approached then by the founders of Rakuten TV, which is a couple of Spanish guys, again, very entrepreneurial guys that had another great idea about video streaming over the internet. So nowadays, we take it as granted that, we've got Netflix and we've got Disney Plus and we've got these other brilliant services. They were there from the beginning of the sort of 2010s with this same idea and really trying to get ahead of the market there. So the business was only available in Spain, and they came to me and said, we want to launch in the UK. You've got this great record. We've heard some good things about you. Can you come and do that for us? And of course, I was delighted to make that transition into what was a really, really exciting market. And after launching the UK, the business then wanted to expand across into the rest of Europe. So my role then became European, to roll out the business into different territories around mainly Western Europe and grow that business to, again, what has gone on to become a fantastically successful video streaming service. So after about 5 years there, I was then approached by the new chief exec of a company based down in Australia, who were a B2B lifestyle products company, didn't have a direct consumer channel, and wanted to open one up, first of all in Australia, and then roll that out internationally. So the chief exec came to me. He knew me a little bit from my background and said, look, again, great experience. You've built businesses before. Can you come and do it for me? And again, it seemed like a great opportunity for me to go ahead and do that. So I had some time down there and did a fantastic job, I think, with the numbers growing that business. And that kind of brings us to where we are.
Wow. Sounds pretty, you must have learned some amazing stuff on the way.
It's a hell of a journey, yeah.
Yeah, no, completely. I was just saying it might be really cool to sort of bottle that down into a few pointers for our listeners. What would you say from your experience were the main ingredients, to establishing that e-commerce growth, and why that ingredient or ingredients were so critical?
Yeah, well, I think that if I was to pick one thing across that was kind of consistent across everything, it's really around data, and making sure that as a business that you're gathering and analyzing and using data in whichever area of the business that you're working in. So if I go back to the very start of Play.com, there really wasn't any data. You knew how much you had in the warehouse and you knew how much you'd sold, and that was about it. And it was during that period of time, once you get into the sort of mid 2000s, that tools like Google Analytics were coming along, and when you could suddenly start to understand, where were people visiting around your platform, how were they getting to your platform in the first place, starting to build a database of customer shopping behavior, and how could you manipulate that in your CRM strategy and those kind of things. By the time I'd then gone to Rakuten, everything had really kind of cranked up a notch. So that business is available across pretty much any internet connected device you can think of. And what that means is there's just an absolute mass of data, whether it's on a smart TV or an Xbox or an iPad. There's all this data about how customers are acquired, what do they do when they're on the platform. And then, of course, you've got your other internal data about what are they buying, how frequently are they visiting, how much do they spend, what's their lifetime value. There's just so much data. And I think, without really having a grip and an understanding of the different types of data that you can get, it's very, very difficult to grow in a sustainable manner.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I mean, it's interesting because I worked actually for a company that was heavily involved in media. And obviously the thing that I remember was that the richness of the data that, is available in platforms like Rakuten or in kind of, video on demand or things like that, is that obviously everyone's logged in, right? And all the data is being captured cross device, incredible. And obviously you kind of work in the e-commerce sort of world, and you've then got an extra level of complexity because you've got the users, and then you've got obviously the anon ID users, the people. So I suppose you've got a double whammy in terms of trying to, get that data, decipher it, and then work out what to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also as well, just thinking about, you're talking about non-identified customers. That was a big area, because what you would have is an enormous amount of visitors. I would call them visitors rather than customers, because they come and have a look, but they wouldn't necessarily create an account, or they wouldn't necessarily log in. So one of the key things that in order to really kind of capture that data and put that visitor into one of our segments, it was we worked a lot on landing pages and customer journeys to say, look, if you visit the platform, we want to send you down this particular journey to then go into this landing page, and this landing page is going to ask you for your email address. And actually, what was really critical in terms of converting that visitor into a paying customer was capturing things like credit card data, and we would statistically look at it very, very granularly to say what happens to a customer or a visitor that doesn't fill that information in versus a visitor that does, in terms of the likelihood that they go on to become a paying customer. So it's really, really granular level of detail, kind of A/B testing the landing pages and really doing everything that you can to make tweaks to that journey to get them to become a new paying customer. And then after that, obviously, they then move into the kind of what we used to call existing user groups and all the various segments that we had created for those.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're touching on obviously so many things there, which I expect now are kind of bread and butter, right, for e-commerce directors all over the world, in terms of making sure that we're testing and putting technology in to try and maximize that move to the paying customer, and making sure that they can give their details to you, become loyal users.
Yeah, this is similar to Play.com. So the example we're talking about here, in terms of time, we're talking about 2012, 2013, when it wasn't so common to do those kind of things. Similar to when I was at Play, there was no blueprint or rule book as to how to how to run an e-commerce business. It was the case that you had your great idea for what your business was going to be. You had a team together of people, and then suddenly you've got this massive numbers. And how do you take that to your advantage? So, lots and lots of different ways we would slice and dice either customer data, marketing data, the platform data, to continually try to just optimize every aspect of the business.
So were you doing that manually then? I mean, if there wasn't much tech around back then, what were you doing? Was it all in a massive spreadsheet or something?
Well, actually, in the first instances, it was. I mean, there was just a big old database, and we just used to myself, and there was the marketing director and the BI director, who were like a crack commercial team, who would kind of say, "Well, okay, give me a dump of the data, and then I'll put my Excel skills to use and manipulate it." Obviously, once that started to bear fruit, and this kind of process of using data to grow the business in that way became more and more prominent, then the tools started to come, and some Power BI and some Tableau and some other bits and pieces like that to make it more efficient to manipulate that kind of data. I think one thing I would say as well is that you have to be very careful not to spend time looking at data that isn't useful. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it. I think it comes down to what is your strategy and what is it you want to get out of it, and then know that very, very well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the great things about Segmentify actually is that they've done a great job of actually boiling down all of the massive amount of data available on GA and other sources, and basically all the granular data that goes through Segmentify at a transaction level already gets rolled up to what they call this Trendify reporting product, which basically means, what are your rockstar products? So rather than you, like you just said, have to sort of filter through, all the transactions to try and understand that, Segmentify is actually presenting you with a dashboard that's saying, right, here's your rockstars, here's the guys that you're looking at, but you're not converting them. So what are you going to do about it? Here's your discounted products that aren't getting bought, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a whole 15 of them or something, which apparently, the e-commerce managers and directors are sort of saying, wow, this is like basically all the work we have to do to try and slice and dice all this stuff is just basically there on a plate. So you can crack on,
It is phenomenal. And, having come from a background where it was very much hands-on because those tools didn't exist, and having to, just kind of figure out in your head, what is it you want to do and then go off and do it, to now see tools like yours coming to the market is an absolute breath of fresh air. And you think how much, time, resource wastage is saved by really kind of laying out that brief in the first place as to what you want and then getting it delivered to you on a plate.
Definitely, man. I mean, like we're saying, I mean, I said in the last episode, it's all about core activity, and we've all got a massive amount of workload, and all the stuff you're talking about here around data, and especially your point about not wasting your time looking at data that you don't need to look at. It's incredibly important, isn't it? You can basically make your job as streamlined as possible to concentrate on the core stuff, and then the other stuff hopefully is already covered off with things like Trendify or whatever else out there, Tableau, etc. That kind of do that stuff for you.
And I think as well, I would just add, you say about your own particular job, but actually once you have to then feed that out to your team and make things very clear and simple to them about, this is what we're looking at, these are our targets, this is why they're our targets, and these are the individual kind of levers that you as a person within this team can pull to improve that particular KPI over there. I think it makes it so much clearer to the rest of the team as to how can they, positively influence the outcome of the not just their team, but the overall company as well.
No, absolutely. No, completely. I mean, you mentioned about, I'm quite interested in the merchandising side of it because Segmentify is going to be building out their current search functionality there, which is like a widget-based search tool, a personalized widget. We're going to pull that out and turn it into a more of a search and merch type solution. Have you had much experience about the actual kind of personalized merchandising around these sort of data and metrics at all?
So at Rakuten TV, we'd start getting into personalization because bearing in mind, this is a kind of movies and TV shows platform that's got thousands and thousands of products on it. Thousands of movies and the posters of the movies that you see. So not every customer wants to see the same thing. I mean, bearing in mind, we're talking about millions and millions of customers all around Europe for this business. But the ideal situation is that each customer that comes along sees products that are, we are recommending to them based on things that either they've done before or people who match their profile have then gone on to do that they haven't yet done.
Exactly.
When I joined the business there, we didn't have any of those kind of tools. It was very much a kind of an editorial voice that led the merchandising strategy, and it was pretty much everybody's just going to like these movies because it's the best that we can show everybody at the same time. But that moved quite quickly on, and again, lots and lots of testing and testing of algorithms, testing of the actual placement of the recommendations lists on the platform itself, on the emails and so on. But the gains that you see in terms of the conversion rates and the repeat business that comes from the customers that have that more personalized recommendation was phenomenal. Once again, coming back to the data, once you actually see it in numbers, it's phenomenal. And then you sort of think, well, why doesn't everybody already do this?
Absolutely. And that's a really, really important point, because when I found again at Segmentify was that the way in which they built the algorithms, and this is really, really exciting actually, because Segmentify didn't come to market until 2015. So we've had the hindsight, if you like, of the industry having developed from earlier platforms. And so you mentioned something earlier on around if you know Phil K's profile and you know what other profiles like Phil K watched, then you can actually take the end of my customer journey and bring it to the beginning of my customer journey to improve conversion, right? That is amazing. And the interesting thing is, that's exactly what Segmentify does. And because I turned around to my boss quite early on when I joined the company, I said, how come we keep, like, I'm not blowing smoke here. I'm just being honest. I said to him, how come we keep winning in all of our A/B split tests against leading competitive products? And basically it boiled down to two things: the speed of it, the speed at which it learns, and the speed at which it presents back. And then secondly, it's this split between the product journey and the behavior, and keeping them separate and feeding them together as two engines, right? So if I know that Simon is looking at a certain type of shirt with a certain size, I'm not just going to bring back kind of recently viewed and popular products into the widget that's there. I'm going to look at what you just said, almost like Simon's profile, and say, actually, when someone like Simon looked at that product, this is what ended up getting bought. And so I'm going to bring that product that ended up getting bought as part of the recommendations to come back to the early part of the journey. So we're trying to finish that journey super quick in session within 30 minutes of being on that website.
Yeah.
And that basically was the two ingredients that when we do our split test, why we keep winning. And that was for me, it's like a gobsmacking moment, because I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're helping the customer really to be happier. You're helping them to find something faster, and then they can go on and get on with the rest of their day. And they think, well, actually, that was a great experience I had transacting on that website, because they already knew what I wanted, and I didn't have to trawl through 50 pages of things that weren't in my size or weren't similar to things they can see that I have in my wardrobe, and then therefore I'm going to stick to this website and I'm going to come back.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, just moving on from the actual side of the data side of things, and then moving into like how you analyze it. What sort of examples of actual data analysis can you share that you think worked really well?
I think there was one example I touched on a little bit earlier on, and this is where thinking of acquiring new customers and growing your customer base. Now, especially businesses that are growing very fast think, I just need more and more customers. I just need to get this customer number up. Once I've got a large database of people, then I can start to talk to them and I can start to get some repeat business and so on. But one of the things that I learned, both at Play and at Rakuten as well, is that, volume of customers is not the goal. It's volume of quality customers that's the goal.
Yeah.
So something at Rakuten TV in particular, I worked very closely with the marketing director there, and something that was a really big kind of KPI was the customer acquisition cost. Because in the world of smart TVs in particular, it's very, very expensive to acquire a new customer. Something that was tested in quite a lot of detail was around the acquisition cost by different channels, and also not just the cost of acquiring that user to the point where they create an account, but actually their lifetime value over a period of time after they'd created an account. So somebody that was acquired through this channel over here at this much cost then goes on to spend 10 times more than that in the first year, whereas a high volume of customers that were acquired, quite cheaply through a different channel go on to spend next to nothing. So then go on.
No, I was just going to say, I'm just interested because on the Segmentify side, it's exactly the same as that, actually. Because what you're effectively doing is providing a service for the customers. And you have to make sure that you protect the fact that you can provide that service by getting the right customers, right? Would you say that that's the same, like on your side of the fence in terms of
absolutely critical? And it's funny, actually, over the last kind of 2 or 3 years, you've suddenly started to see quite a lot in the kind of the trade presses and so on, talking about how much cheaper it is to retain a customer than acquire one.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If I go back to 2013, 2014, nobody knew that at the time. The objective was just get loads and loads of customers, and we can say we've got millions of customers and blah blah blah. But then you think, well, hang on a minute, we've got millions of customers, but hardly any of them actually spend any money. And no matter how many times I send them an email or I do this to try and contact them, they still don't spend any money. So bringing it right the way back to where did they come from in the first place, and then identifying which is the right channel to acquire that customer, and shift your marketing budget into that channel to get more good quality people, that even if your overall number is smaller, at least the ones you're getting are actually spending money with you.
That makes so much sense.
We saved like 30% on our marketing acquisition cost with this kind of strategy. Is a significant amount of money, and again amplified across all of Europe as well. That was a huge kind of breakthrough.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, because I don't obviously live in your world, but there's so much similarity. Actually, we're both businesses. I think I said to other people as well. We are all kind of making revenue at the end of the day, right? So they're the same end goal, but just slightly different kind of engines, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, you want to find ways to push your top line up and keep your bottom line down. And this is exactly what this achieved for us in terms of that new customer pipeline. I guess the natural kind of progression from that is, when that person then becomes what we would call an existing customer, is how do you then kind of keep them coming back and keep them regular? So absolutely critical to get them transacting in the first place within X period of days, and this could vary by different industry as to how many days you're talking about, but within X number of hours or days to get that customer to transact. Then at what stage do you want them to come and make their second transaction? So, I mean, if you're buying, I don't know, a bed, then you're not going to come back next week and buy another bed.
No.
In this case, you're buying a movie, and then the following week another great big movie comes out, or the following month another big one comes out. A business like that, which has such a fast turnover of product, want you to keep coming back and coming back. So something that was particular responsibility of mine then was how to get more of those existing customers to continue to transact. So here very much looking at segmentation in the CRM strategy, personalized communications out to people, and understanding that you've got this particular type of customer over here that maybe they only ever buy a movie on payday and it's always a horror movie, let's say, but then you've got this other group of customers over here that have a trend of they tend to buy family movies on a weekend and in school holidays, but they're buying Deadpool on a Wednesday night. And then you think, okay, well, now this is a family, so I'm going to create a segment of family users, and when I contact them, whether it be on a weekend or on a weekday, I know what they're going to want to watch. And that was a really great way. We managed to increase the activity rates by around 40% by the time we really refined this segmentation strategy.
When you said send them, content or contact, should I say, are you talking about email at that point?
It was primarily email, yeah. There was a little bit of push notifications going on as well, mainly kind of phone-based push notifications or smartphone-based, with a little bit of testing on kind of on-platform stuff. But for the on-platform stuff, obviously the customer's got to go to the platform to see the notification, whereas by an email or a kind of smartphone push notification, you're actually kind of getting in their face a little bit more and letting them know that you're there.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, interesting to talk about push and with Segmentify. I've mentioned this before, but the ability to, we were talking earlier about non-ID customers and obviously users. And we found basically by bringing in the push notification side of the Segmentify's platform, that we're able to drive an extra 1% of revenue to every single one of our customers, which is a brand new revenue stream. Because through the browser, by enabling push notification, you can obviously bypass the browser and you can actually target the desktop directly. And so that was a great way of contacting people that you would no way be able to understand who they were. But actually this time you've now got personalized data on behavior followed up with a campaign through push notifications straight to desktop, as well as email. So all of a sudden you're driving extra revenue that you never had.
But it's really smooth, isn't it, as well? It really, from the customer's point of view, say, okay, look, these guys really get me. They have a consistent voice through any way in which they're trying to communicate with me. And when I go to their platform, then again, I've still got that consistency there of, we emailed you about this product and you come to our page and funnily enough, that product is front and center on the page. I haven't got to go looking for it. I think that's a great customer experience from end to end.
Definitely. Yeah. And you also mentioned stuff about cyclical products, and it's a big thing for, more kind of bespoke or customizable platforms like Segmentify, where, if you're a supplements company, or like you said, you're in beds or you're in events or travel or whatever, that you need an engine that's going to be able to say, this is a particular set of products, or this category and subcategory is going to be bought, every 3 months or something. So if I've just bought a massive, keg of protein powder, which I hasten to add, I don't, looking at Southern Muscles, then, you're not going to want to put that in front of the same person within 3-6 months, and therefore making sure that you've got an engine that can do that in the most efficient way, so that you're not having to try and manually curate that, and you can get on with the other stuff you've got to do. Absolutely. Knowing that you're maximizing the experience in that part of the journey for that user,
Exactly, and as much as possible on a one-to-one basis. I mean, perhaps that's the sort of end goal rather than the first objective for a lot of companies that haven't already started doing these kind of things. But certainly from an end goal point of view, that really adds value to the experience. And again, that customer is going to be very happy and think, I haven't been bombarded with messages that aren't relevant to me. Yeah. And when is the right time to be contacted? I've been contacted with a relevant message, product, promotion, whatever it might be. Right. So thank you very much for prompting me to do that.
That's it. It's all about those sort of multiple relevant sort of 7 touch point, isn't it? Before you start registering. I think I remember from years ago, somebody told me about seven touch points to, start remembering something.
Yeah.
But anyway, just besides data, what other tips would you give our listeners in terms of growing an e-commerce business?
So I think I would probably start, as I always tend to start with the customer first. So, who is your customer? Why would they come to you over coming to anybody else? Because there aren't very many product categories left that aren't super competitive these days. So, even if you're a startup, the likelihood is that there's similar types of products, not always, but similar. And in most other businesses, certainly businesses that in today's world are suddenly having to transition into having a direct consumer platform from a legacy, high street type place. I think really, really making sure that before you start spending any money or doing anything else is really know who your customer is, where you're going to find them, what interests them, what other things do they do, who influences them, and then start to build your proposition around that. Because if you start to do it, for someone else's customer or for somebody that really isn't going to be interested in you, then again, you're wasting time and money and all kinds of things, and you're probably going to fail. So I think that I would always kind of start there, I think, with knowing your customer.
Did you do that with Fantastic, for example? I mean, can you remember still a boiled down differential? I'd love to hear it myself. Do you remember anything from the companies that you worked for where you had that statement, almost like an elevator pitch for a particular brand that you were working for?
Yeah, I think with when I joined Fantastic in Australia, that was definitely the kind of the day one in the sort of strategy book, to say, because in this case, although the direct to consumer channel was brand new, the business had actually been trading as a B2B customer for like 20 years. So they did know their markets very well. And then within that, okay, well, give me all of this data then, because this is the Australian market, which I'd never worked at before. So, different to the European market, different to any other market I'd worked in. So, okay, tell me all about, who are the customers and who buys what in this kind of area. And then knowing at that stage that e-commerce in Australia was not very well developed in terms of as a comparison to, say, Western Europe and North America and so on. So, okay, well, of the e-commerce stuff these guys are doing already, what do they do? What websites do they go on? What kind of products sell well? And then it was very much a case of building the product portfolio and the platforms to suit what those customers were going to want to buy through online, that they weren't going to buy through a big department store. So, for example, some of the kind of cheap and cheerful type toy products, very, very hard to sell online when they come in assortments, but very easy to sell a checkout in a Target or a Kmart, as it was down there. When you're looking at one of the other product ranges we had was electric scooters, which are suddenly hundreds, if not $1,000 for some of the really, really high end electric scooters. Now you're going to struggle to find those in any of the kind of retail outlets. So that was a really, really great opportunity for online. So therefore, the platform that I was kind of in charge of was then around optimizing this. And you can find information on some of those other products, but actually what I think you're really here to buy is this product over here. And that worked really, really well. Phenomenal growth in terms of conversion rates. I mean, we had around a 70% increase in conversion rate through re-merchandising one of the owned websites. I mean, 70%, that's phenomenal. So that's not an incremental change. That's a huge step.
So did you, in order to do that then, did you have to focus the entire operation in terms of the acquisition of that customer to then be relevant when they hit the website? So do you have to do an end-to-end digital marketing to landing page to conversion type journey?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had to manage it in terms of all of the paid media and the paid channels, because there wasn't really because there was no direct to consumer business, there was no real paid media specialists in the business either. So for sure, everything that was going into any kind of paid digital channel was refined around that clear message. But the other thing as well was SEO, because again, the websites had not been built by, there basically had been an external agency that had a crack at building these websites, but they weren't really focused on these things. So looking at our organic traffic that was coming in, it didn't exist really. So thinking, okay, well, I need organic traffic, of course, and I think they're going to come to buy these kind of products. So let's redo the platform, the copy, the images, everything to do with SEO to attract this type of customer and come out in the first search result, to generate that organic traffic. And in the meantime, let's buy a bit of traffic until we get there.
Yeah. No, that is brilliant. Well, I mean, any other sort of final thoughts on those parts about other tips?
I think especially to any kind of growing business, I think your brand values, and this is certainly true in today's world, what does your brand stand for? Because again, customers have the right to be very fickle online, and they can, as I said before, they can most likely buy either the same product or a very similar one from somebody else. So, you have to really be clear about your brand values and what is it you stand for, what is your kind of mission. And I sense, especially over the last couple of months, people are migrating much more towards businesses that are very, very loud about talking about these kind of things. I think what I would also say as well, especially from my experience of fast growth businesses, is that, you have your headline strategy and your mission, but you've got to be prepared to change that fairly regularly based on the way things actually pan out. And if I pulled back to example at Rakuten here, there was the overall company mission, but there was an annual company strategy in place that used to get reviewed every quarter, and it could be changed quite drastically depending on what kind of gold nuggets had been unearthed in the previous quarter that you'd worked. So I think that agility and flexibility has to be really embraced and not kind of suppressed.
Give us an example though of, for me, more than anything, I mean, what would be an example of some brand values and a mission in your world? Because that's what we do every day as well. We're constantly thinking that, like you said, to be agile. But give me a real world example.
I think give an example of something like sustainability. This is something actually very close to my heart, and I do a lot of voluntary work locally with kind of environmental stuff. So for me, I'm really drawn towards brands that talk about what are they doing to either reduce their carbon footprint, or what are they doing to minimize waste? What are they doing to support their supply chain to be more sustainable? So I feel there's a lot of people like me nowadays that have been influenced over the last few years, from the TV shows and so on that expose these things to us, and you want to feel as a consumer that you're putting your money towards those kind of missions. And again, there could be a competitive business that actually does the same thing, but they don't tell anyone about it. So I'm not going to spend money with them. I'm going to go to the ones that do.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because I literally just bought some Gumbies, right? Those sort of flip flops.
Yeah.
But there was a few things that I kind of almost subconsciously realised, that when you just mentioned that, it just so happens that Gumbies do stand quite strongly for environmental things, right? Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't seeking that out, but it was nice to know, and it was very clear on their website that they use recycled rubber or rubbish or plastic or whatever it is. I can't remember, but the point is it's environmentally friendly. I also noticed that the website was clean. It was really well put together. The pictures were brilliant. The user experience was very, very good.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting piece, right? Now, what stopped me from going to Amazon and going to get them, right? This is the other bits of marginal gain, which obviously, as a completely nonchalant customer, I got bagged by Gumbies direct. And that was because those things you've just mentioned were in place. The experience was great. As I went off, and I know everybody knows this, right? But I went off the website and immediately I got a 10% discount. Now, I don't try and look for that, but that happened, right?
Yeah,
that was real life. I thought, well, hold on a minute. Went back to Amazon, see that I could get it cheaper from Gumbies, free delivery, great experience. The brand was looking nice. I completely trust the website, such to the point that I didn't care about going to Amazon anymore. And bosh, I bought them, and I got them within, during COVID, I got them within 3 days. My other half, Michelle, she was like, those things come already? I was like, I didn't know that.
Which is a perfectly acceptable time frame, isn't it? You don't need everything tomorrow.
Yeah, but you've just captured, almost for me as a subconscious kind of buyer, this blue sky scenario where you've just nailed it. And you've now got Phil K as a Gumbies customer for life. I'll never go anywhere else. I'll go back to Gumbies for my next pair. And I'll be honest, the ones I had are stuck together with sellotape, right, from my brother's engineering company. And Michelle was like, "You can't wear them anymore, Phil. Right? If we go camping, no, I'm sorry, you ain't coming." So I had to get new ones. But the point is, as I think you've said, it's almost dawning on me talking to guys like you that this is real, and this is like I'm on the receiving end of what the kind of almost like the utopia is of getting customers kind of like me who are bought into a brand and ain't going to go anywhere else.
And I think I would just add on top of that as well is that customers would be prepared to pay a little bit more money to have such a great experience as what you've had. There are other websites, marketplace type websites where you might be able to buy that a little bit cheaper, and you might be able to get it a day quicker. But it sounds like you and I have the same kind of attitude of saying, well, actually, these guys over here are working really hard for me, and they're trying. Their brand is great, their experience is great. They're talking to me in the way that I like to be talked to. So I'm going to stick with these guys over here because I've really enjoyed that experience.
Yeah, but you mentioned that, and I do agree with you in the most part. But I'll be honest, right? I'm talking from a consumer's perspective to an e-commerce director, right? Which is a great standoff. I'm saying to you that, you know what? If I managed to be able to get those flip flops, right, 3-4 quid cheaper off Amazon, I'd do it, right? Even though they've provided me a great experience. So what I'm thinking is there must be a way, like in this situation, that you take as a brand, you take a leadership approach on this. You say, well, I'm not going to get undercut by Amazon. I'm not going to sort of, I'm not going to, excuse my French, drop my pants for that marketplace and try and get volume through it or whatever it is. I'm going to stick to my guns. And I don't know if you can do this, but you only sell at the same price as I'm going to sell on my website direct. You ain't getting no other privileges. Or does Amazon turn around and go, no, if you're going to sell on my platform, you've got to do it cheaper?
No, Amazon's got different kind of models. Basically, if you go down what they call the vendor model, where they buy the stock from you and they're in full control over the pricing and everything else that happens to your product. But if you are the seller yourself, then you can sell whatever product, whatever price that you want. They obviously try to, or through their algorithms, try to encourage you to try and be cheapest, because there are things like how can you win the buy button, how can you come out in the search results, and price is a big factor of that. But again, I had hands-on experience of this in the Australian market when there were other importers selling the same branded products from outside of Australia and cheaper. But from my point of view, it actually didn't make sense for me to undercut my own website where I was making less margin anyway.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. But we obviously see that. So from my layman's kind of, observational point of view from the other side of the fence, I'm thinking, yeah, you might get volume through Amazon, but you might not keep your long-term brand quality, if you like. Yeah, and so if Gumby's have nailed it, because I can't get them cheaper off Amazon, right? I don't have to pay any delivery off Gumby's website. They give me a discount if I leave. Bang, they've got me. And I'll go back there because I know that it's a great experience. I got them really quick, and they're going to be either comparable or cheaper than anywhere else. That to me sounds like a wicked combination.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at really massive scale example of this is the Nike example in the States with Amazon. They've actually withdrawn their relationship with Amazon completely because they felt that the brand experience for such a big brand that they are wasn't good enough. So they've actually completely walked away from that relationship, which is a huge step. But I think also if I'm a small, medium-sized business thinking, well, hang on a minute, how does that interpret into my world? Actually, could I be doing something better? And obviously you have to look at the economics of it for each business, one case at a time. But it's certainly a brave move. And I think, other customers might start to transition away. You've given your example there that, depending on how loyal you are to that brand, if you just want a new pair of shoes for the summer, then you could go to Amazon and there'll be thousands of options you could buy there. But if you really like those ones and they were what you wanted, they gave you a good experience and blah, 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 you think, actually, I'm just going to stick to their own website now. Maybe they'll chuck me a deal and maybe they'll give me an exclusive promotion or whatever. And I'm winning that way.
Because I wasn't, you're right. I'm talking about, when you talked about brand values and mission, we're not talking about, I suppose, flogging something that, any old guy could flog. And I'm not disrespecting businesses like that. But where you are a brand, you want to try and protect that. The same as Segmentify needs to protect its pricing structure, for example. It has a solution which provides fantastic results. It costs money to bring that customer on and look after them in the right way. So we can't afford to do it then for any less than a certain amount of money. The same as obviously must be and is, as you said, the same for you guys selling products or manufactured goods, whatever it might be. So that's got to be protected. So I wonder if there's going to be, and this may already be in place because what do I know, right? But I'm assuming that there must be a place for where more and more brands just won't work with Amazon because they're more confident that they can say, do you know what, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to get kind of screwed down by a platform like that. And I'm going to push for the long-term gain of maintaining and building my brand presence and my pricing and all of the other bottom line and cash flow that I need to run this business effectively. And,
I think the current situation as well will actually accelerate that happening because obviously businesses before, I speak to a lot of people and they say, they've got a kind of a traditional sort of high street type business model and they think, we are online. We've got our own website and somebody manages some stuff on Amazon for us and, it trickles in a little bit of money and blah, blah, blah. But it's not really core to their strategy. It's just a kind of we need to do that. So we're going to do it in a sort of a low level way. I think now, obviously, the big sort of slap in the face is saying, okay, now, that's the only way you're actually making money at the minute. But also for the next, year or two before people really start to get back to that kind of going to the high street behavior, you've got to take this really, really seriously. And just chucking your stuff up on Amazon or eBay or any other marketplace and, seeing a bit of revenue come through is not good enough. That's like a 10 years ago strategy. You've got to be so far ahead of that. The thing I would say is that, if you do have your own branded websites and you want to go down that path, which is great, but you've got to think about where's your traffic going to come from. The advantage of going to places like, I keep mentioning Amazon all the time, but other kind of aggregator type marketplaces is that they bring the traffic and then you fight in amongst that traffic. And obviously if you go on your own website, you've got to think, okay, well, how much is it going to cost me to bring in the right amount of traffic to generate the right amount of sales? So it's very much a kind of a balancing act and in no way saying jump in with 2 feet and go and do it. You've got to really, really think about it and understand it and do the economics of it. But from a transitional point of view, as you were saying, I sense that trend will happen a lot over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird because I've been thinking about this, just having these chats actually. And it's just funny that it's come to, it's come to the fore now in this chat, but we were kind of indicating it in previous episodes, but actually we've taken it by the scruff of the neck now, because I was having a gut instinct on that, an intuition that's saying like, surely like this could even go full circle, where Amazon has gone through a season of just hoovering up so much. And I wonder if there'll be, like everything seems to be cyclical, right? Like we saw flares in the 1970s, and now I can't believe it, and I hate to say it, but we're seeing them again, right? But like I wonder if this engine, this monster, if you can call it another word, right, will end up kind of changing in the sense that there'll be almost like a revolt, where it won't be able to hoover up anymore, and all of them, like the volume of the brands out there, will start to fight back against Amazon in a way,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look back over the sort of the 20 years or so that Amazon has been growing, I come back to my point earlier on about data. That was really what set them apart from everyone else, about how amazingly brilliant they've been.
The program was saying, the program he was on, Jeff Bezos or whatever his surname is, when he was talking about it's all about data. There's nothing else that their business runs on apart from data.
Exactly, and that's everything they've built there. Because I always say this to a lot of people: if Amazon is very, very functional. It's it's kind of cheap and efficient and those kind of things. But how many people would honestly say they really enjoyed the experience of shopping on there? So yes, okay, you could say I enjoyed it because it was quick and I only had to press a couple of buttons to get what I wanted. But you didn't really enjoy the actual shopping experience. And if we're trying to say, people that are migrating from an in-store shopping experience to an online one still want some sort of level of come back to brand values and personalization and these kind of things, and I think the one of the things that Amazon's been so good at is that they've never stood still. This every day's day one is what Bezos says, because if you stand still, then someone else is going to come and race past you. And you see, I look at say Netflix as an example. 2-3 years ago, you couldn't see anybody touching Netflix except maybe Amazon. Now suddenly you've got this, the Disney Plus, and if you're looking at the market in America, HBO, loads of different services now launching, and Netflix thinking, crikey, actually, we've totally dominated this video streaming market, but now all these really big players have kind of sensed the opportunity. They're coming for us. So that translates to Amazon. We'll see.
Yeah, completely. Well, listen, we've gone on for quite a while. It's been a really brilliant chat, and maybe we can just like finish off with like one key takeaway. What do you think you'd love the guys to hold from this chat?
I think having a really, really clear commercial focus. I don't apologize for saying data again. Really understand that data, because if you don't, then you're going to be scratching your head as to why something didn't work. So in your marketing, in your customer lifetime value, in your conversion rates, in your user funnels, get that data and really, really kind of understand it. Have the tools and the talent, to work with that data, and be kind of agile enough to change your strategy if you need to, based on what you learn.
Brilliant. And just I forgot to say actually, how would you love guys to contact you if they're interested in talking to you a bit more about this stuff?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I'm looking on there. So yeah, by all means, if somebody wants a chat or some advice or to just throw some ideas around, just connect with me on there. Simon Homent, pretty easy to find because hardly any people have my surname. So look me up on there, and I'll be happy to have a chat.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that chat.
Likewise, thanks for having me on. And
no, not at all. And thanks to listeners to listening as well. It just remains me to say that if you haven't done so already, please do register on segmentify.com/podcast, because then you will get hold of all the new podcasts as we announce them and publish them. And of course, Simon's and all the other episodes in the first and second series are put onto that site. And of course, you can get hold of them on YouTube and all the other channels, Spotify, Apple, and so on. Also, I would say that if you would love to be involved, or you have any questions about the series or any topics you want us to bring to the table and discuss, please do email me anytime, phil@segmentify.com. And just have a wonderful day. And thanks again to Simon. And we look forward to speaking to you all again very soon.
put us to the test and let us prove we can drive more revenue for you. Sign up for a completely free proof of concept or split test against your current provider, set up and optimized by our team within a few days at segmentify.com/demo.